I'm still talking to the former special advisor to the Tories, James Price. James, before we get to Lucy Connolly, I think that's an important issue to discuss. This has literally just cropped up in the last hour or so, and I think it's a disgrace. Labour has slipped this in on the last day of Parliament, right? And what they've slipped in, do you remember when there was the furore, we were all demanding a national inquiry into the grooming gang scandal, the rape gang scandal, and Labour sort of said, no. But they offered the nation as a SAP. What we will do is we'll have 5 local inquiries in the worst hit areas. A lot of people say, well, what do you mean by that? 250,000 vulnerable white young girls. That's the estimate of how many young girls were raped or sexually assaulted and groomed by these predominantly Muslim Pakistani origin men. Now, what they've done just now, literally, they've dropped even the local inquiries. They set aside £5 million for these 5 local inquiries, but now Jess Phillips, the safeguarding minister, has just announced it's all over. We will use that money to back locally led work on grooming gangs. So this government has totally abandoned the victims of the grooming gangs and abandoned what this nation wanted. People, we're all a bit suspicious about, a national inquiry here, a national inquiry there. Too many national inquiries. But we wanted one here. They said no. Many of us thought it's because they're frightened about the Muslim vote. They didn't want to upset the Muslim community. And now they've abandoned even the local ones. And they've slipped this in just as Parliament's closing. That's a disgrace, isn't it?
You may have to calm me down at some point in this, because I've been following this for a few hours now, and it has made my blood boil beyond belief. This is the Labour Party saying that not only will it refuse to do, as you say, a national inquiry, despite huge amounts of evidence that these events were not just happening in the past, by the way, these predominantly Pakistani Muslim rape gangs, they're still going on in many cases. And many victims are still having to live in the same towns and see their perpetrators, the people who did these unspeakable acts to them. These things are still happening. And there was one sort of partial investigation where people didn't bother to collaborate with it, and therefore it didn't really get very far. Then you've seen a bunch of cases where some people have been taken to trial, but the court transcripts are very expensive. For some incredibly mad reason, costs a huge amount of money. We could just, obviously with AI now, get these court transcripts knocked up and sent out very quickly. But in a way, I'm almost glad that they are so prohibitively expensive they can't come out, because what they contain, what some of these heinous acts are, things that I didn't think possible to imagine in my worst nightmares, have happened and are still happening in this country. I'm not going to say what they are, but there's a rising star of the Conservative Party called Katie Lamb, Member of Parliament, who responded to Jess Phillips, who you just mentioned there, and she read out some of the horrible acts that happened. And this is the first time that any of these things have been said, because the transcripts have only just been paid for from some of the court cases. And they are, as I say, stuff out of your worst nightmares, or hopefully worse than you can possibly imagine. And yet the Labour Party will not have a national inquiry in this. And as you say, has now scrapped even the local schemes. Now, I thought that some people saying that that this was because Labour Party local officials or local councillors or something might be implicated. That to me sounded like a wild conspiracy theory until today. I can see no reason why Labour would not want to have an inquiry into this unless their own people are implicated, or because they know that what has gone on in towns and cities, the length and breadth of our once great country, is so horrifying and so evil that it would lead to mass levels of civil unrest, because that's how disgraceful these acts have been. And the fact that we're still just now, I say we, the government, the state, is trying to brush it under the carpet. No, we need to expose the horrors of what's happened and what is still happening
And
here.
Jess Phillips introduced this last-minute announcement into Parliament with 45 minutes' notice, just as Parliament's closing for the break. She is the Minister for Safeguarding and Violence Against Women and Girls. I say shame on her, and shame on the Labour Party for this. This is a disgrace. To play political chicanery, political tricks with an issue like this, the nation deserves better than this, and they they're going to rue the day they do this. They really are. We're coming back.
And very, very briefly on it, of course, her constituency has a very high Muslim percentage of voters in it. And at the general election last year, Jess Phillips almost lost her seat, and she was heckled and harassed by people at the count. But she was too frightened, perhaps understandably so, to call out who and what and why these people were having a pop at her. She just described them as, quote, men, right? As if it was all men. And then when the rioting kicked off and the counter-rioting kicked off last summer, she, as a newly minted Home Office minister, was seen to try to defend the creation of a set of ad hoc Muslim militias who were wandering around the streets in Birmingham looking to pick a fight against a kind of far-right outing who didn't actually exist in the first place. There's something very, very deep and sick. And Kevin, you're exactly right. They will rue the day, Labour, where they try to play politics with something as important and disgraceful as this.
Yeah, and let's not beat about the bush. The reason they're doing this is if they had a big inquiry into the Muslim gangs, it may offend certain noisy elements of the Muslim community, and Labour are terrified of that because they need and they want the Muslim vote, potentially 4 million at the next election. And that's what this is all about. And it, as you say, James, as we both agree, it's scandalous to play politics with an issue like this. There are some things that should be more important than whether or not you win an election. They really are. So, as we both agree, Labour will regret this. I'm certain of it. Now, very quickly now, we haven't got long now. Elon Musk has joined the growing throng of prominent people calling for Lucy Connolly to be released. Lucy Connolly is the 42-year-old mum. She's got a 12-year-old daughter. She was sentenced. She's the wife of a Tory councillor, you know, that kind of classic, what the Daily Mail will call a loving middle-class mum, but she pretty much is. She had a moment of madness during the summer riot. She tweeted something that was stupid. She said mass deportation set fire to asylum seeker hotels. If that makes me a racist, so be it. I don't care, you know, or something like that. She got 2 years and 7 months for that. This woman is no threat to the community, to the people whatsoever. She's appealing. She gets rejected for her appeal. Her latest appeal is, could you just please let me out on licence, temporary licence, to see my 12-year-old daughter? You know, and they say no. 2 years and 7 months for hurty words on X. This is the epicenter of all that is wrong, or all that was wrong, with Keir Starmer's lock-em-up approach to the summer riots, just banging anyone in prison. And no one should ever go to jail in this country for something they write on social media. Would you agree?
I think I do, actually. I think this has kind of proven it. I used to think that there was reasonable cause for when people, you know, incitement and things like that. I think they're definitely that if you say, let's all go out and kill so-and-so today, right, I do still think that that shouldn't be allowed, and that is an incitement to violence, and therefore there's a fair enough rule around that. But this case has shown that needs some kind of either tweaking, or it needs a judge to be very sensible about these things. This woman clearly didn't actually pose any great threat to anybody, and she clearly didn't actually think through what she was saying. It was a moment of anger and all the rest of it. A slap on the wrist, a suspended sentence, all these things are toolkits that the judiciary could have used against her. But the Keir Starmer and the judiciary and all the rest wanted to make an example of somebody who's otherwise been a perfectly nice, caring, law-abiding person. And to not even let her see her daughter at a time when, you know, prisons are full of, and so full actually that we can't get violent criminals into there. This woman is taking up a space, is madness. Just last week, 2 people who were accused of setting up a Hezbollah terrorist cell inside the UK were released on bail. Yeah. Right? And this woman is in prison for saying some hurty words on Facebook. That's how you know we have a 2-tier justice system. And not just that, someone like Robert Jenrick in the Tory party highlighted the nature of having a 2-tier system, because it was, until his intervention, going to become the law of the land that people of ethnic minorities would be treated less harshly. So maybe Lucy Connolly, if she were black or something else, she wouldn't be facing such a stiff sentence. And that's the 2-tier justice system we've got in Britain right now. It's a disgrace.
There was another lady called Julie Sweeney. She went to jail as well for nasty words during the riots. You know, she talked about blowing up the adults inside the home. None of this is nice, and we're not condoning it. But this was a woman like who lived in the countryside in some farm, and about 7 people read her post. It's ridiculous to send these people to jail. As you say, this is the epicenter of our 2-tier justice crisis. James, excellent time with you for the last half an hour. Come and do it again soon. Always a pleasure. That was James Price, former special advisor for the Tory party.